to this episode of Grease Garage, guys, where today we are going to drill a huge hole in Josh's bonnet.
That will not be happening. We discussed this.
What do you reckon? Yeah? Screamer pipe, exhaust, out the bonnet. Make sure you like and subscribe so we do it.
I don't care if you get likes and subscribe.
So, we're looking at the engine bay and you can see that a lot of stuff has been happening. Last time you guys watched us, we did the exhaust manifold and we were playing around with that, making spaghetti go into one to power this turbo. Now, as you can see, I have decided that the exhaust is going through the hood.
Oh my god, yep. So, it's definitely not going through the hood. It's going out the back like a normal dump pipe, and it's not going out the hood.
I mean, just think of the weight that you're saving.
Yeah, I don't really care about the weight, mate. It's gonna be...
It's gonna start seeing goes through flames. You could be like the Booster Boys.
I don't want to be like the Booster Boys. I want to be like the Pajero.
Pajero. Well, anyway, so we've been mucking around with this. We're having a play with the oil lines and stuff like that. But what we've done behind the scenes is we've finished modifying the manifold. So just cleaning up a couple of things that were sticking out, just grind them off. The 380 map sensor, welded that over and cleaned that off. Chucked a plate on here for the Pajero throttle cable, which Josh has right there. For the brake booster, we've hooked up the bung here and taken it away from there and welded that up. And we've done it for his fuel and map, because Josh will eventually be going to a map sensor and also boost gauges and stuff like that.
Yep.
That magnet throttle body on there. Oh, we also modified this section. So this is actually a Pajero.
Yep.
Well, what would you call it? Like the Pajero throttle bracket, I guess.
Yep.
Because they also have a different swing for the pedal, so that's why you have to change them over. And we bring that a bit closer so it makes it look all nice. Magnet throttle body, because the magnet throttle body is bigger.
It sure is, but between the two, the TPS is different. So we just went to the Magna one, just instead of trying to mess around with the Pajero one.
So we just stuck with the Magna TPS. The plugs are exactly the same.
Yeah.
On the idle control.
Yeah.
So pretty basic, and you're getting, I reckon you got like an extra, we have to check that.
Yeah.
It's probably an extra 5 mil between the two.
Definitely.
So it's definitely a big improvement. Yeah, and then I mean, this looks crap hot. It looks awesome.
It is really nice, and we also cleaned it.
We did clean it.
We
with tire cleaner. I'm gonna put a picture of the bottle here, and we did that, and it cleaned it out like awesome. Josh has some photos, and we will put them here. Now we have to do something very important, and that is the intercooler piping on that side. Because when Josh puts the manifold on, it is extremely tight. So we're going to have to do something very, very special to try and make that work. And I think we might have to do some crab welds. I'm thinking, because if he wants to keep his battery there, it's going to be tight. And that's why we should put the exhaust through the hood.
It definitely will not be going through the hood.
Alright, well, let's get to it. Josh is going to bolt down that manifold. I'm going to start doing the fuel system, and Josh is going to start doing the intercooler. In my hand, we have the fuel pressure regulator from Go Fast Bits. This is a 1-to-1 rise rate regulator. Now, the reason why we put this in on pretty much every one of our projects is because we are going turbocharging or supercharging. We're putting boost into the manifold. And the reason why you want to go rise rate is because for every PSI you put into the engine, it also puts an extra PSI on the fuel. This is important because if you were putting, let's say, we had a built engine here and we're putting in 30 PSI of boost pressure, but your fuel pressure is only 43 PSI. Really, the injectors will only have 13 PSI actually spraying into the engine. So you've got to have that rise rate. You've got to raise it up so the pressure is always constant on the injector nozzle. So that's what we're doing, and there's a couple of things we have to do. Josh wants to go E85 down the track. So I'm going to get this ready to have AN fittings, but we're going to be putting in fuel hose and we're just going to be running it on fuel for now. So where do we start? Well, we're going to pull all this old crap out and modify it. So let's do that. Whoops. Pulling out the OEM fuel lines is a pretty easy job. A pair of pliers and some elbow grease and they come right off. Regardless if it was the right length hose anyway, due to the age of the fuel lines, it's just good practice to replace them. Now, as you can see, I'm using part of a spare fuel rail I had lying around to make the ends. As you can see, I've cut the ends off and laid them flat so they are ready for the weld-on AN adapters. With the Aeroflow AN adapters, you'll notice that the fitting is rounded to give better flow. This is a great feature, but needs to be flat for what I'm using it for. To protect the threads, I'm using an old fitting as a cover, and it also helps with holding the fitting straight in the lathe as I cut it flat. If you're doing this modification on your Mitsubishi, the ends of the fuel rails that I'm modifying are mostly a press fitting, and I need to weld these two pieces together before I try to weld an adapter on. Once that's done, I earth my vise and clamp this bolt in so I can center the two pieces. Giving them a wipe down, I get straight onto the welding, slap a couple of tacks on each side, and then reclamp the fitting and run a bead. The last thing to do is drill the center of this fitting out so it's the same size as the standard AN fitting. This goes without saying, you really don't want a restriction in a fuel system. After this, I use a wire wheel and then a buffing wheel to make sure this fitting is perfectly clean. In the meantime, Josh has done the manifold and has somehow lost the plot.
How good does that dump pipe look down here? Going down.
And maybe I have as well. I could not use the standard bolts to hold these polished fittings, so we are using stainless steel bolts. There is no reason for this other than they just look nice. As you can see, we have made up some custom fittings and the feed line is now connected to the fuel rail. We will flush it all out once we've done cutting and getting everything to the right length. What we've done is we've peeled back some of this stuff and we found a hole, so that's where we're gonna install our fuel pressure regulator, and we're going to use some rib nut inserts, one of these little things, bolt it up. We're probably going to cut the return line just to neaten everything up and then zip tie it all up. So let's get back to it. Sorry interwebs, we might get some hate mail if I got mail. No, ringy ratchet, ratchet. Ringy, do you hear me say ringy ratchet? So as you can see, I am sitting in the engine bay. And that's because we are about to prime the fuel through this car. So exciting stuff. So the first thing we're going to do, we're not going to run the fuel rail all connected. We're going to like flush everything out because obviously we've been cutting hoses, been hooking up fittings. There might be a little bit of crap in the lines. So that's what we're going to do. So the first thing we're going to do is the feed line. I've disconnected it back off this. And I'm just going to pull it out like that, and we're going to put it in the bucket, and then we're going to get Josh to turn the ignition on, and Alright, now normally also when you turn your ignition on, the pump would normally prime.
Yeah, it's strange, yeah.
It is strange. The ECU's connected into it?
Yep.
That is bizarre. But anyway, that's can you just like go that's better. Nice. But we're gonna pressurize the fuel rail out and then have it pumping out of here into the thing, and then we'll cut this hose and connect it up, and then we'll pressurize the system. Like I said, this is just a bit of assurance. We don't want any crap going through these injectors because we've already had them cleaned out. And we don't want to do any extra troubleshooting if we don't have to. All right, Joshy boy, we've connected all up.
Yep.
Let's do it, let's see if it gets pressure. Oh, that was pretty sweet. Nice, man. There you go. So as you can see behind us, it's the next morning. We look a lot fresher.
Yep, definitely.
Definitely a late one. So, it's still holding pressure.
It is. It's still holding about 1 bar of pressure.
So that's pretty awesome. So we know that we've got no leaks. It's probably just dropped a little bit of pressure because it's just going past the diaphragm. So that's awesome, man. I'm very happy about that. So next thing we need to do is make a mounting plate for the coils and the ignition pack.
Yep.
Also, just want to quickly go over that we pulled all the wiring apart and we've kind of just taped it where it needs to go. And see, this is his BAP sensor. We just made it huge and long. And we didn't actually cut and join. This is just unraveling it.
Yeah.
So we can put it wherever we want to get it started. So what we're going to do first is we're going to use a bit of wood, get the rough shape, and then we're going to use this aluminium plate, probably around 6mm thick. And then we're going to bolt it all up so it all works. So let's get to it. Some of you might be wondering why I'm using wood. Well, wood is cheap, and if I make a mistake, I can always redo it without too much effort. Unlike aluminium, which can be a pain to work with and isn't cheap at all. I make a quick shape that I think is going to work and then cut it out. Once I'm happy with the design, I then trace it onto the aluminium and use a tri-square to neaten everything up. I then drill the inner 90-degree bends and any other holes that need to be done before I use the bandsaw to cut the shape out. Josh, I'm in your engine bay. You've got this masculine plate, this shiny bit in a car that has no shiny bits. Oh, well, it has the radiator, I guess. Anyway, so it's going to do a couple of jobs. One, it's going to take the heat out of these components.
Two, it's a sick dress kit, hide all the wiring.
And also, it's going to be a mounting kit for all of these ignition coils. So sick.
Yeah.
So let's drill them in.
Sweet.
Okay, so we've mounted some stuff up, we've got the plate there, and we've just got these loose at the moment. I know you're meant to have them mounted up. But before we go too far and I start welding bits and pieces, we just want to make sure that this is going to start. We have changed so much stuff, and I want to know that we've crossed all the T's, everything's done, and it's going to start so we can continue doing what we are doing. So we've taken the manifold off so we don't blow any crap into the turbo.
Yep.
All right, Josh, you ready for this?
Sure am. That was quick.
That's all I'm making.
Yeah, it's out the water for the turbo.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. That was sick. We should fix it up, start up again and give it a rev.
Yep.
Alright, fix it up. Alright, Joshy, how about round two, buddy?
Yep, let's go. Ready?
Yep.
Holy that's loud.
Woohoo!
Oh. It just obliterated the gasket. It just shot it.
Mate, she runs mint.
Yeah.
That's wicked.
Shit.
It ran perfect.
Yeah.
That's really good. Alright, cool. Now that we've got that regulator out, Josh is going to chuck in this manifold and make it look good. Make sure you put the gaskets in. The gasket is on the belly end. Lucky we can do voiceovers, eh?